Mia sat in her usual spot at the edge of the school courtyard, doodling absent-mindedly in the corner of her notebook. The sun was warm on her back, and the breeze was gentle, but her mind was a storm of emotions she couldn't shake off. She glanced up at the group of students across the yard, her eyes locking onto Nathan. He was laughing with his friends, his easygoing nature making him the center of attention. Mia sighed, her chest tightening. She'd been in love with Nathan for as long as she could remember. They'd been best friends since kindergarten, and she knew every quirk, every smile, every thoughtful look on his face. But despite how close they were, despite how much she wanted to tell him how she felt, Mia had never worked up the courage to confess her feelings. Everyone knew Mia as bold, fearless even. She was the kind of girl who spoke her mind, never backed down from a challenge, and always did things her own way. But when it came to Nathan, her confidence wavered. She couldn't bear the thought of ruining their friendship if he didn't feel the same. It was Friday afternoon, and the final bell had just rung, signaling the start of the weekend. The courtyard was buzzing with students making plans for the evening, but Mia's mind was elsewhere. She knew she couldn't keep her feelings bottled up any longer. It was time to do something about it, time to take a brave step. "I have to tell him," she muttered under her breath, closing her notebook and standing up abruptly. The thought made her stomach churn with nerves, but she knew it was now or never. She had a plan. Well, sort of. She didn't want to tell him in front of everyone, where things might get awkward or embarrassing. Instead, she decided she'd write him a letter. It felt a little old-fashioned, but it was also personal. She could express herself better in writing, without fumbling over her words or worrying about how he'd react in the moment. That night, Mia sat at her desk, staring at the blank page in front of her. The moonlight streamed through her window, casting a soft glow over her room. She took a deep breath, picked up her pen, and started to write. "Dear Nathan, this feels kind of strange to write, but there's something I've been meaning to tell you for a long time. I don't know how to say it out loud, so I figured a letter would be the best way to get it all out. We've been friends for years, and I can't even imagine what my life would be like without you. You've always been there for me, making me laugh when I'm down and sticking by me even when I'm at my worst. But lately, I've been feeling different. About you. About us. I guess what I'm trying to say is that I've fallen for you, Nathan. And not just in the way friends care about each other, but in a way that makes my heart race every time I see you. I don't know if you feel the same, and I understand if you don't, but I couldn't keep this to myself anymore. No matter what, I don't want this to ruin our friendship. You mean too much to me. Yours, Mia." Mia folded the letter carefully, her hands trembling slightly. She stared at the envelope for a few minutes, wondering if she was making a huge mistake. What if he didn't feel the same way? What if this letter changed everything between them? She shook her head, trying to push the doubts away. She had made up her mind. She had to tell him. It was better than living in the uncertainty, constantly wondering what could have been. The next morning, Mia arrived at school earlier than usual. She slipped the letter into Nathan's locker, her heart pounding with nerves. Then she walked away quickly, before anyone could see her. She spent the rest of the day in a daze, waiting anxiously for Nathan to find the letter and read it. but as the day wore on, Mia's anxiety turned into dread. During lunch, she overheard a group of girls giggling near the lockers. One of them was holding a piece of paper that looked suspiciously like her letter. "Can you believe this?" one of the girls laughed. "She actually wrote this to Nathan." Mia's heart sank. Somehow, her letter had gotten into the wrong hands. She stood frozen in place, her face burning with embarrassment as the girls continued to make fun of her heartfelt confession. The worst part was that Nathan hadn't even seen it yet. Her mind raced as she tried to figure out what to do. Should she confront them? Try to get the letter back? Or should she just pretend none of this had happened? Before she could decide, Nathan appeared, his easy smile fading as he noticed the group of girls crowded around his locker. One of them handed him the letter with a smirk, and Mia's stomach twisted in knots as she watched him unfold it. She held her breath, waiting for his reaction. He read the letter in silence, his expression unreadable. When he finally looked up, his eyes met Mia's across the courtyard. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. Mia's heart pounded in her chest, and she felt like she might faint from the sheer tension of it all. She was sure he could hear her heart from where he stood. Then, to her surprise, Nathan smiled. Not the teasing, mocking smile she had been bracing herself for, but a soft, genuine smile that made her knees weak. He walked over to her, the letter still in his hand. Mia's face flushed with heat, and she could barely meet his eyes as he stopped in front of her. "I was hoping you'd say something like this," Nathan said, his voice soft but steady. Mia blinked, her brain struggling to process his words. You were?" Nathan nodded, his smile growing wider. "I've liked you for a while, Mia. I just didn't know if you felt the same." Mia's heart soared, her nerves melting away in an instant. She couldn't believe it. After all the worrying, after all the doubts, he liked her too. Before she could respond, Nathan chuckled and held up the letter. "I'm sorry it got passed around like that. I wish I could have read it sooner, but it doesn't change anything. I'm glad you told me." Mia let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding, relief flooding through her. "I thought for sure you'd think I was ridiculous." Nathan shook his head. "No way. I think it was brave." Mia smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. For the first time in days, the knot of anxiety that had been sitting in her stomach began to unravel. It wasn't a disaster after all. In fact, it had turned out better than she could have imagined. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of emotions for Mia. She and Nathan started spending more time together, their friendship deepening into something more. It felt natural, like this was how things were always meant to be. But not everyone was as supportive of their new relationship. Some of Mia's friends started acting differently around her, especially Lucy, her best friend since middle school. Lucy had always been protective of Mia, and at first, she seemed happy for her. But soon, Mia noticed a change in Lucy's behavior. She seemed distant, even cold at times. One afternoon, Mia decided to confront her. "Hey, is everything okay?" Mia asked as they sat together in the art room after school. "You've been kind of off lately." Lucy looked up from her sketchbook, her expression tense. I'm fine. Mia frowned, sensing that something was wrong. Are you sure? You haven't really talked to me since Nathan and I. Lucy cut her off, her voice sharp. Since you and Nathan got together? Mia blinked, taken aback by her tone. Yeah, I guess. Lucy sighed, closing her sketchbook and running a hand through her hair. Look, Mia, I'm happy for you. Really? But it feels like everything's changed. We used to hang out all the time, and now it's like you're always with Nathan. Mia's heart sank as she realized what was happening. Lucy felt left out, like she was losing her best friend to this new relationship. I didn't mean for that to happen, Mia said softly. I guess I got caught up in everything. Lucy nodded, her expression softening. I get it. I really do. But it's just, we've been friends for so long, and I don't want to lose that. Mia reached out and placed a hand on Lucy's arm. You're not going to lose me, Lucy. I promise. Nathan's important to me, but so are you. I'll make more time for us, okay? Lucy smiled, though it was a bit strained. Okay. As Mia navigated her new relationship with Nathan, she worked hard to maintain her friendships. She didn't want to lose herself in her feelings for him, even though they were strong. They went on dates, held hands between classes, and stayed up late talking about their dreams, their fears, and everything in between. Nathan was more than just her crush now, he was her partner, someone who understood her in a way no one else did. But despite how well things were going, Mia couldn't shake the nagging worry in the back of her mind. Was it all too good to be true? Was there a chance that things could fall apart, that this new, fragile relationship could shatter if they weren't careful? One evening, after a long day at school, Mia sat on her bed, her phone in her hand. She had been texting Nathan, and their conversation had taken a serious turn. They were talking about their futures, college, careers, and whether they'd still be together when it was all said and done. I don't want to lose you, Nathan had written. Mia's heart skipped a beat as she read his message. She didn't want to lose him either, but the future felt so uncertain. They were still young, with so much ahead of them. Could they really make it last? Taking a deep breath, Mia replied, We'll figure it out together. No matter what happens, we'll make it work. Nathan's response came quickly. I believe you. I believe in us. Mia smiled, feeling a sense of peace settle over her. She didn't have all the answers, but she knew one thing for sure, she loved Nathan, and he loved her. And that was enough for now. Weeks passed, and Mia found herself more deeply involved with Nathan than she had ever imagined. They spent their lunch breaks together, went to the movies on weekends, and texted late into the night. Their relationship felt effortless, like everything had finally fallen into place. For the first time in a long while, Mia wasn't second-guessing herself. She had taken the brave step of confessing her feelings, and now she was living in the happiness that followed. But despite the joy, the pressures of high school loomed large. Senior year was approaching, and everyone was talking about college applications, scholarships, and future plans. Mia couldn't help but feel a weight on her shoulders. It wasn't just the anxiety of choosing a college, It was the fear of what would happen to her relationship with Nathan when they inevitably went their separate ways for school. One afternoon, Mia and Nathan were lying on the grass in the school courtyard, the warm sun bathing them in light. Nathan had his arm draped casually around her, and Mia rested her head on his shoulder, feeling the comforting rise and fall of his breathing. "Have you thought about where you want to go to college?" Mia asked, breaking the comfortable silence between them. Nathan shifted slightly, glancing down at her. "Yeah, I've been thinking about it a lot, actually. I've always wanted to go to UCLA. They have a great engineering program, and I've been working on my application." Mia smiled, though she felt a pang in her chest. UCLA was on the other side of the country, far away from where she planned to apply. "That's amazing. You'd do so well there. What about you?" Nathan asked, turning his gaze to the sky. "Where are you thinking of going?" Mia bit her lip, her stomach twisting with anxiety. She had always dreamed of going to an art school, maybe in New York or Chicago, somewhere she could fully immerse herself in her creative passions. But now, the thought of being so far away from Nathan made her feel uncertain. "I don't know yet," she said, trying to keep her voice light. "There are a few schools I'm considering. Maybe something in the city." Nathan nodded, but Mia could sense the tension in his expression. He was thinking the same thing she was. What would happen to them when the distance between them became a reality? They spent the rest of the afternoon talking about less serious things, movies they wanted to watch, music they liked, funny memories from middle school, but the question of the future lingered in the back of Mia's mind. A few days later, Mia found herself back in the art room, a place she had always considered her sanctuary. But today, it didn't feel like an escape. The pressure of looming decisions weighed heavily on her. She stared at the blank canvas in front of her, the paints and brushes laid out neatly, but she couldn't bring herself to create anything. Her mind was too clouded with worry. Lucy walked in, as she often did after school, and sat down beside Mia. She noticed the untouched canvas and raised an eyebrow. "What's going on? You haven't even started." Mia sighed, leaning back in her chair. "I don't know. I've just been feeling stuck lately." Lucy gave her a sympathetic look. "Is it about college? Or Nathan?" Mia winced at the mention of Nathan. "Both, I guess. I'm scared that when we go to different schools, everything will change." Lucy nodded, her eyes softening. "I get it. But you can't let that stop you from pursuing what you want. You've always dreamed of going to art school. You can't give that up just because you're afraid of what might happen." Mia sighed, knowing that Lucy was right. She didn't want to lose Nathan, but she also didn't want to lose herself. Art was her passion, it was what made her feel alive. And deep down, she knew that staying behind just to be close to Nathan would make her resentful in the long run. "I just don't know how to balance everything," Mia admitted. "I don't want to choose between him and my dreams." "You shouldn't have to," Lucy said, her voice firm. "A relationship should support your dreams, not hold you back. If Nathan loves you, he'll understand that." Mia smiled weakly. "I hope so." That evening, Mia sat on her bed, her sketchbook open in her lap. She hadn't been able to focus all day, her mind swirling with thoughts of Nathan and her future. She loved him, she really did, but she couldn't shake the feeling that they were on different paths. As much as she wanted to believe that they could make things work long distance, part of her was scared. What if the distance drove them apart? What if, by going to different schools, they slowly drifted away from each other? Her phone buzzed, snapping her out of her thoughts. It was a text from Nathan. "Can we talk?" Mia's heart skipped a beat. She stared at the screen for a moment, her fingers trembling slightly as she typed out a response. "Sure. What's up?" A few minutes later, there was a knock at her door. Mia's pulse quickened as she got up to answer it. Nathan stood in the doorway, his hands in his pockets, a serious look on his face. Mia stepped aside, letting him in, her stomach twisting with anticipation. "What's going on?" Mia asked, her voice soft. Nathan ran a hand through his hair, his expression conflicted. "I've been thinking a lot about what happens after graduation. With us." Mia's heart sank. She had been dreading this conversation, but she knew it was inevitable. "Me too," she admitted. Nathan sat down on the edge of her bed, his eyes searching hers. "I don't want to lose you, Mia. But I also don't want to hold you back from your dreams. I know how important art school is to you, and I would never ask you to give that up." Mia felt a lump form in her throat. "I don't want to hold you back either, Nathan. UCLA is an amazing opportunity for you." They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of the conversation heavy between them. "What if we try long distance?" Mia suggested, though her voice lacked confidence. "People make it work all the time, right?" Nathan smiled sadly. "Yeah, some people do. But it's hard, Mia. And I don't want us to be one of those couples that just slowly drifts apart because we're both too busy with our own lives." Tears pricked at the corners of Mia's eyes. She had known this was coming, but it still hurt more than she expected. "So, what are you saying?" Nathan took her hand, his grip firm but gentle. "I'm saying that I love you, and I always will. But maybe we need to let each other go for now, so we can both chase our dreams without holding back." Mia's heart broke at his words, but deep down, she knew he was right. As much as she wanted to be with Nathan, she didn't want to sacrifice her future, or his. They had always been honest with each other, and this was no different. She wiped away a tear, her voice trembling as she spoke. "I love you too, Nathan. And maybe you're right. Maybe this is the best thing for both of us." Nathan pulled her into a hug, and Mia held on tight, savoring the moment. She knew this wasn't the end for them, it was just a new beginning. A different kind of love. One that allowed them to grow, even if it meant being apart. The weeks that followed were difficult, but Mia and Nathan stayed true to their word. They remained friends, supporting each other from a distance as they prepared for graduation and the next chapter of their lives. It wasn't easy, and there were moments when Mia missed him more than she thought possible, but she knew that they had made the right decision. On the day of graduation, Mia stood with her cap and gown, her heart swelling with pride. She had been accepted into her dream art school in New York, and Nathan had gotten into UCLA, just as he had hoped. As the ceremony ended, Mia found Nathan in the crowd. They hugged, both of them smiling through their tears. "You're going to do great things," Nathan said, his voice filled with admiration. "You too," Mia replied, her heart full of gratitude for everything they had shared. They didn't need to say goodbye. Their connection was too strong for that. Instead, they parted with the understanding that no matter where life took them, they would always carry a piece of each other in their hearts. Epilogue. Years later, Mia stood in a bustling gallery in New York, her artwork displayed proudly on the walls. She had made a name for herself in the art world, her bold and colorful pieces capturing the attention of critics and collectors alike. As she walked through the gallery, admiring her work, her phone buzzed with a familiar name. It was Nathan, texting to congratulate her on her latest show. They hadn't seen each other in a while, but they still kept in touch. Their friendship had stood the test of time, just as they had hoped. Mia smiled as she read his message, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. She had taken the brave step of confessing her feelings to Nathan all those years ago, and even though their romantic relationship had ended, their bond had endured. She had chased her dreams, just as Nathan had.